Hey guys, welcome to another MapleStory video, and today I'll be making a guide on how to properly power level. It's doubtless you've seen numerous videos on YouTube of these players taking a class and training it straight from a creation to level 200 or so within hours, and back then it took weeks, and even now it could take a couple of days. Today I'm going to show you guys how to properly power level any character, though it's nothing remotely complex as it is just simple preparation and knowing what your options are. I'm going to take a couple minutes just to properly explain what power leveling actually is in case you guys don't know about it too much. Power leveling is a community coined term for a player who spends excessive amounts of resources onto a character for the purposes of quickly leveling up the character, usually to level 200, although in some dedicated fans it's actually level 250. You can elude power leveling in MapleStory as the equivalent of speedrunning a game. Essentially, you abandon all quests, story, etc. just so you can reach a high level. There is no real gain nor incentive to power leveling other than I guess bragging rights, and reaching the levels is not like a high requirement, so you don't need to power level every time a new character comes out. It's just something fun to do. And power leveling is mostly used for characters upon creation, but you can also consider training from 210 to 220 in a day power leveling. A while ago, in between last year and now, Nexon severely crippled power leveling, but at the same time they remedied it. What I mean by this is that almost all experience buffs were multiplicative, which meant that if there was a 2x event and then you had a 2x card from the cash shop, it would become 4x, which then compounded by, let's say, Holy Symbol, which is 50% more, it would be 6x. But now everything other than cash shop coupons and 2x events have become additive, which means consumable 2x cards, Holy Symbol, etc. they've all been effectively nerfed. Though Nexon remedied this in an alternative fashion by adding in many sources of extra experience such as combo kills, burning maps, runes, and the like. Being a power leveler myself, I actually somewhat agree with this change. It was far too easy to get extreme amounts of experience bonuses that would skyrocket you all the way to up to even like 18 times experience. I remember the highest that ever went was a 3x experience event plus 2x cash shop card, and then there was a 3x consumable coupon that I had, and Holy Symbol, which took me all the way up to like 27 times experience or something ridiculous like that. Barring even the other things like Mercedes, Link, and Kana and such. You can still achieve high experience rates, but now it's just delegated into multiple things. That is to say, you have to work harder to get those experience rates. Power leveling requires ample preparation beforehand, especially when there's a new class being launched. Players would often acquire equips and resources months before, but that's more for if you want to be the first of that class to reach a certain level. Let's say the first level 200 Kinesis or the first level 200 Kadena, etc. I like to divide up preparation in 3 parts: experience buffs, resources, and planning. Try to visualize it like this. Experience buffs are the ingredients, resources are the cookware, and planning is the recipe. To make the best dish possible, you need all 3 of them at the highest quality, and each one complements the other 2. If you have less experience, your resources and planning will fall short too, so make sure you have a good balance of all 3. Here's a common list of experience boosters that you can get your hands on, and it's going to be a long list on the screen, so pause if you do need to read it. That is pretty much everything I can think of possibly off the top of my head. Obviously, in order to power level, you need to increase your experience rate as high as you can. A lot of these are relatively common and you probably know most, if not all of them. Nexon used to host 2 times experience events pretty much every weekend, but from what I've heard, they stopped doing so. I think it's just because they were issuing them way too frequently. In terms of which ones are the easiest to get, I'll list a couple. 1.5 and 2 times experience coupons from Monster Park are go-to number 1, and while you have only 2 free entries a day, you can get another 5 by buying extra tickets from the cash shop or the reward point shop for 300 NX or reward points apiece. Plus, with the coins you get from the boxes, you average about maybe 20 to 25, you can easily pick up some gold potions for 10% more experience for 30 minutes, and it costs about 10 coins each. Mercedes, Aaron, and Evan links are also easy to get since you just have to train them up to level 120, which for even unfunded players that shouldn't take more than a day or so for each of them. Mercedes gives a flat EXP bonus, Aaron gives a bonus to your combo kill orb experience, and Evan's increased rune durations, which by extension increases your EXP rate. And I would say the next easy one to get is what's already present in the game for everyone, being runes and burning maps. Some areas in the game have maps which are burning, which means you get bonus experience training in that map up to 100% more, but if you train it in it for a long time, the burning begins to mitigate down by 10% every interval, which I have yet to find out what that said interval is. And runes also exist in every map. Nexon has actually mandated players to use runes every so often, otherwise the map becomes cursed and all experience and drop rate is removed until you use the rune, so you have no reason not to. It does give 100% bonus experience for about a minute, and if you do have rune persistence, that duration is amplified even more. Stack as many as you can so that you can get the most out of training. With all these bonuses, it's pretty easy to reach 10 times experience if you have all of them working for you. Now that you have your ingredients, you need your cooking equipment, and that's just it. You need good low-level equipment to make your character strong enough to one-shot mobs, sometimes even 30 levels higher than you. The stronger your character is, the faster you'll level. Common low-level equipment are scarce nowadays, even if you're in Bara, and for Reboot obviously you can't have power leveling gear since you can't transfer gear over, but here are some examples of low-level equips you should try to get your hands on. I scrolled many of these myself using event scrolls back then, And a lot of these equips I actually got from those previous events that you can't do anymore, such as the Absolute Ring, Belt, Shoulder, the Evolving Rings, Hero of Legend, etc. These equips, they still circulate the market but have increased in value due to the rising popularity of power leveling and the lack of actual good early game equips. I'm sure you've seen people scrolling gear like Raccoon Mask, Branch Noses, Ice Chains, etc. For many lower level players, resources they will undeniably be the most difficult to acquire unless you've been playing for years and have followed many of the events that give event exclusive gear like the Absolute items. An alternative thing you can do is use equipment bypass keys to lower the equip level requirement by up to 30 for certain pieces. You can scroll level 70 or level 100 gear, and then try to reach that as soon as you can and scroll CRA and or Empress gear so that once you hit level 110 or 120, you can equip them right away. At least that's what I do a lot. It should also be noted that every anniversary event that Nexon hosts, which usually takes place around April and May, they give you a lot of Maple weapons and equipment that span over the course of the entire history of MapleStory, so that's usually what I would do is I would hoard a ton of Maple equipment, and then that way if I ever need to train a class of that type, I can just simply take it from there. Early game equipment, while important, it's not as mandatory as experience buffs though. It's just mostly to expedite the early game leveling, which isn't the hardest part to begin with anyway. The rule of thumb is to have all of your equipment lined out before you even start power leveling, that way you don't need to take a pause to scroll and enhance equipment. Oftentimes I prepare an Empress and a CRA set, and in rare cases I even get some Gollux gear ready like 2 pendants and a belt so I can get super high damage right away. Other things you want would be a portable storage so you don't have to go to town to pick up your items, and most importantly you want to get a teleport rock to easily transport from place to place. Other than that, you should be good to go. Last but not least, we have planning. Now that you have all your ingredients and all of your cookware, you need to have a recipe, a direction to follow. These are 3 questions I like to ask myself whenever I plan to power level. What training location should I go to? Who can I have to help me out with my training? And what are some possible contingencies that I have to look out for? The training guide I made a few days back covers every location you need as if you were training normally, like getting a few levels an hour. But when you're power leveling, you're blitzing like 30 levels an hour, so you gotta plan out your route. Those of you who are training with strong power leveling gear, you can start taking on maps that are even 30 levels ahead of you. Ideally, what my path of training would be until level 140 if I were to train like let's say Legion Mule is Evil Eyes, then go to Gold Beach, then to Drakes, then to Sand Dwarves, then to Dual Ghost Pirates, then to Kerning Tower, and then you should be 140 by then. But of course, you should always tailor it to what your equips are and what your situation is. As for who can help you out with your training, things like Bishop, Phantom, Beast Tamer, Kana, Frenzy Service, what have you. This doesn't necessarily mean you need to have 2 accounts nor actually have those classes. You can always pay someone for the service to give you Frenzy and such. Usually ask your guild members, I'm sure there'll be people who are more than willing to help you out even for free. But if you do have a good group of friends who would take time out of their day to help you, always make sure you give them a thank you. By contingencies, I mostly mean things like in case you run into crowded maps, or if you expected a boss to get you from level X to level Y but it didn't get you to the level Y, or if you disconnect and lose your experience buffs. That's case by case, so I can't tell you much about that, but just cover as many bases as you can. Other than that, enjoy your training. Power leveling, it's a really satisfying experience, and nothing feels cooler than leveling 100 times in a short amount of time, especially when you're a burning character. If you guys have any specific questions, be sure to leave them in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer. Also, don't forget to tell me what your answer to the question in the video is. Looking forward to reading them. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.